Super Rugby Aotearoa 2021 final. It's going to be the Chiefs and the Crusaders. The Crusaders were always the big time favourites going into this competition. They are on a heck of a winning run under Scott Robertson. Can they add another trophy to the cabinet? They are definitely the favourites, but the Chiefs certainly turned things around under Clayton McMillan, absence of Warren Gatland, who's off with the Lions. A busy chap, but either way, it should be a cracking game. It's on at 7 o'clock, 7:05 on Saturday here in New Zealand. They are the two top teams. Remember, Super Rugby Aotearoa is a little bit different from AU, as AU had like a qualifying final or a semi-final between second and third. Aotearoa goes straight into the final with first against second. The Crusaders finished 6-2. The Chiefs 5-3. Interestingly, different from the AU final where the the Reds got 2 wins over their opponents, the Brumbies, which is the game on after this one. As these guys split their results. The round 3 result at home was a pretty convincing one to the Crusaders, 39 points to 17, whereas the away fixture in Hamilton was a close one, but the Chiefs managed to get it done 26-25. So there's at least that little bit of belief there in the Chiefs, you'd have to say. Either way, I'm going to go over the lineup, some of the stats, some of the predictions. And you guys can let me know your thoughts on how this one maybe gonna pan out. The Crusaders are coming off a bye, so they should be really well rested, and they have left the lineup virtually unchanged from the last time they played. Bauer, Taylor, and Alaalatoa as the front row, Scott Barrett and Whitelock at the second row. And man, those guys have just been impeccable at line-out time, man. There's a reason the Crusaders have the best line-out in the competition. It's because they've got 2 world-class All Blacks in their lock-in duo. Blackadder, Havili, and Cullen Grace is the back row. Blackadder's work rate is always one to look out for. He is more often than not the Crusaders' top tackler. He is a proper machine. Drummond and Mo'unga is the 19 combo. It's always interesting to see who Robertson's going to pick as his 9 because he's got 2 kind of even-ish guys with Hall and Drummond, but Drummond and his distribution gets the nod at 9. Mo'unga, he lost the battle of the 10s last time when D-Mac played opposite him at 10, but D-Mac's at 15 for this one, so Mo'unga's up against Gatland. Mo'unga is a proper live wire in terms of his ball carrying ability. He is just one of the most dangerous guys you will see with a 10 on his back. He just makes people look silly at times. Havili and Fainga'anuku is the midfield. Bridge, Reece, and Jordan the back 3. So the starting 15 is exactly the same. And the bench is not much different either. The only change being is Braydon Ennor is back after a very long injury layoff. And he is there in the number 23 jersey. So alongside the likes of Dunshea, McLeod, Hall, as I mentioned, Jager, is old Braydon Ennor. So good to see him back. Now the Chiefs, the Chiefs didn't have a bye, they virtually rested the majority of the team. They didn't virtually do it. They literally rested the majority of their team. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, like 12 of the starting 15 did not play in that last game against the Blues. So not quite a bye, but it's the next best thing. It did mean that their losing record notched up another one because they played kind of a B team against the Blues, but they weren't able to pass the Crusaders, and the Blues weren't able to pass them anyway. So it was kind of right for them to do it and keep the big guns for this game. Ross, Taukei'aho, and Ta'avao is a new front row compared to last week. As I mentioned, these guys were all rested. They'll have a good challenge up against the Crusaders pack, but if you go by the numbers, actually, the Chiefs scrum is one of the best ones. It is the best one in Super Rugby Aotearoa, interestingly enough. Vaa'i and Mitch Brown is an all-new lock-in duo, as I mentioned. Interestingly, Arkoi is on the bench. I thought he might have started, but he's coming off the bench for some impact. Soakula shifts to number 6. Boschia is back in the number 7 jersey, and since he's come back from injury, his work at the breakdown has been really good, so he's one to watch. The Crusaders have to be very mindful of their ball, and Jacobson as well is also fond of a wee turnover. He's back in there at 8. So the only one who played last week was Soakula. Otherwise, it's a fully rested forward pack. Webber's there at 9 alongside Gatland, who did play last week at 10, and as I mentioned, Gatland is not quite the same player as Richie, believe it or not. He doesn't usually take the ball to the line as much as Richie. Doesn't have the same flair for kind of beating defenders, but he's a solid distributor, and he proved last week that he's got a pretty solid goal-kicking boot on him as well, if he does the kick-in. But remember, D-Mac is there at 15, so he's probably going to be doing it. Nankiville and ALB are back in the midfield. Neither played last week. Nanai-Seturo, left wing. Jonah Lowe, right wing. And D-Mac is there at 15. So, how long Gatland plays? Does D-Mac move in to 10 at some point? They've got Tia on the bench, who usually plays fullback, so you've got to think Gatland is not going to go to 80, and at some point D-Mac will move into first receiver. Tuhuriarangi, Mafaleo, Norris, Pohipi, Capelli, all these guys dropped to the bench after playing in the starting lineup last week. Fina, Wainui, Tupaya, etc., Sam Kane, all added to the Chiefs' long injury list. Head-to-head, these teams... Interestingly, the Crusaders have scored the most tries of all the teams with 30, and the Chiefs have the fewest with 18. How you make the final with scoring the fewest tries? I guess you've got some pretty good defense. Both sides' defensive stats are pretty much the same. The Chiefs are the first place team for their defensive shift, 86.6% with the tackling rate. Guess who's second? It's the Crusaders, 86.5%, so 0.1% between these two sides. Defenders beaten, it's first and second, with the Chiefs being first, the Crusaders being second. Clean breaks, it's second and third, interestingly enough, with the Crusaders being second. Lineouts, though, is one area where the Crusaders should look to dominate, but I remember saying this exact same thing prior to this game. I said the Chiefs lineout has struggled and the Crusaders lineout is awesome. It might be an area where the Chiefs struggle. And from memory, they went either 100% or 90%, the Chiefs, that day. They really, really were settled. But it is first against fifth, best against worst in terms of the overall season line-out percentages. So Taukei'aho and his guys will have to certainly be on form once again like they were in that 1-point victory in round number 8. Individuals, you got top try scorers. Codie Taylor's the top try scorer of the comp with 7. Jordan and Reece have got 4. D-Mac's got 3. So there's certainly some tries in both of these teams. Defenders beaten. Moonga is first. As I mentioned, he's a proper live wire. Nanai-Seturo, interestingly, is second, though, so you do have live wires on both sides. Clean breaks. Weber is first. Will Jordan is second. So there's awesome players, key matchups all across the park. It should be an ultimately pretty fascinating one to watch. That being said, no surprises that the Chiefs go into this one as underdogs. The Crusaders are favourites. The bookies over here in New Zealand, the TAB, have got the Crusaders by 10 points. Rugby Forecast algorithm, which weighs the head-to-head, home advantage and all that stuff, has the Crusaders by 15. I hope it's a bit closer than that. I hope it goes down to the wire because it is a final. You do want it to be a proper match. Hopefully the crowd is good. I haven't actually checked ticket sales. Hopefully it's a sellout because remember they sold out. I think the Crusaders are the only team to sell out a game so far this season. So credit to them down at Christchurch for getting out there. Hopefully they do it again for this one. Hopefully it's a fine day. I haven't checked the forecast. But anyway, you guys let me know your thoughts. How do you think this one is going to go? A Crusaders team coming off the bye who did look vulnerable towards the tail end of this season against the Chiefs, who likewise rested the majority of their starting 15, who really have come right in the second half of the season. How do you guys think this one's going to go? And yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.